I think personally, I think they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Tom Bower just dropped news that's sending shockwaves straight through Meghan Markle's camp. The hard-hitting biographer behind the explosive 2022 bestseller is officially back, and this time the pressure is way heavier. His upcoming release is already being described as something that can't be spun, smoothed over, or hidden behind shiny PR moves. Bower didn't mince words when confirming the sequel. He says the material inside cannot be reshaped or dismissed, and that statement alone has people talking loud. On top of that, he's locked in a major serialization deal with News UK, meaning The Times and The Sun will be dropping chapters week after week. This isn't a quick headline that fades out. It's a long, rolling spotlight that keeps coming back around. When the first Revenge hit shelves, Meghan and Harry still had major streaming deals and powerful friends backing them up. That safety net is gone now.
How desperate was Meghan Markle to be famous? Well, apparently, according to Tom Bower's book, she basically spent seemingly all her money with the sole goal of intention of finding the right connections and being as famous as humanly possible.
Revenge 2 lands after a series of very public missteps. Spotify walked away, Netflix projects struggled to connect, the buzz didn't hold, and the momentum slipped fast. Their lifestyle ventures haven't had smooth sailing either. Reports claim millions were tied up in unsold products, creating more pressure behind the scenes. But insiders say money isn't the real stress point this time. What's weighing heavy now is credibility, unresolved history, and questions that never fully disappeared. Bower is now digging into areas critics have whispered about for years.
In the book, Harry must be nuts. This is one of the text messages his friends were sending around to each other after Meghan's first introduction to Harry's friends in 2017 during a shooty weekend at Sandringham.
Early social circles, exclusive party scenes, private club links, timeline gaps that still raise eyebrows. Things that were once brushed off or ignored are being pulled back into focus, louder and sharper than before. This isn't being framed as a simple stumble anymore. Instead, the narrative is shaping up as a step-by-step breakdown of how a public image was carefully built, heavily promoted, and later tested when the pressure turned up. The media world has changed. Friendly platforms are fewer, and redirecting the story is way harder when old questions resurface. For anyone unfamiliar with Tom Bower, his track record speaks for itself. He's often called the Witchfinder General of biographers, and that label didn't appear out of thin air. Over decades, he's written more than 25 unauthorized biographies targeting some of the most powerful figures in Britain.
It certainly brings to light that whole theory of you put a frog in boiling water, it jumps straight out, but if you put a frog in cold water, it will slowly boil to death. And I think a lot of people, whilst myself hasn't actually been really shocked by the revelations because I was aware of, I'd say, most of
his past subjects include Robert Maxwell, Richard Branson, Tony Blair, Boris Johnson, Simon Cowell, and Prince Charles. The pattern never changes. He goes where others won't. He tracks down people who were never supposed to talk. He listens, cross-checks, and locks stories into timelines backed by records. His first book on the Sussexes didn't top charts by accident. It leaned on more than 80 on-the-record sources, many speaking publicly for the first time. Several reportedly stayed quiet for years before deciding, in their words, it was time to talk. What really puts people on edge is Bower's legal history. Despite intense scrutiny from top lawyers, he has never lost a defamation case. His work is built on documents, verified accounts, financial trails, and material designed to stand firm under legal pressure.
But I do think that when you're mocked so publicly as they've been, their value begins to nosedive pretty quickly. And I don't think they're finding any more sources of income.
For Revenge 2, Bower reportedly spent years moving between Canada and the United States. He attended public events in person, including the Invictus Games, observing closely and conducting interviews along the way. This wasn't rushed or thrown together. In interviews, Bauer stated, "I've got a lot of new material already, and I think the whole world wants new insights." The book is expected to drop in early 2026. This time around, Harry and Meghan reportedly have no leverage to influence what ends up in print. The Daily Mail is said to have avoided bidding on the serialization due to ongoing legal issues.
That is the picture Tom Bauer paints in about the first 100 or so pages of his new book about Harry and Meghan. And so, guys, I'm going to just share with you a couple of the insights that I saw and some of the huge warning signs about who Meghan is and her intentions and how really this whole thing with her and Harry will absolutely end in
The Times and The Sun, however, face no such limits and are preparing to publish the material in full. One moment expected to resurface goes back to February 2020. That's when South Park aired its Worldwide Privacy Tour episode. The satire echoed what many viewers felt mainstream media had tiptoed around for years. The episode showed the Prince and Princess of Canada demanding privacy while constantly airing personal complaints. The parallels were obvious. Online reactions blew up almost instantly. Viewers quickly linked the episode to a real video Meghan had previously shared publicly, a casual hospital clip meant to look fun and relatable. What once felt harmless suddenly became a lightning rod for parody and debate.
Sometimes, I don't know, words seem superfluous really. Meghan shared that bedside twerking video, taken shortly apparently before she gave birth to Lilibet. Remember the child that she named after the Queen's private nickname was given to by Duke of Edinburgh, without getting permission from the Queen.
That clip, originally framed as joyful and empowering, may now face a tougher spotlight. She reportedly believed it would come across as lighthearted and strong. South Park flipped the script entirely. The show animated a scene inspired by the clip, showing a character dancing with an exaggerated baby bump before the bump drops, revealed as a pillow. The satire hit hard, and that moment still hasn't faded from public memory. That single animated moment set the internet on fire almost instantly. Social media exploded with reenactments, remixes, and looping clips repeating the phrase, "Respect our privacy," which quickly transformed into a full-blown viral meme. What was meant to feel personal and light suddenly became a global punchline overnight. Another scene from the episode poured gasoline on the reaction. A computer-style profile flashed across the screen, listing 4 blunt words critics say struck right at the center of Meghan's public image: sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim. That moment hit hard and spread fast across every corner of the internet. According to multiple reports, Meghan's team attempted to block the episode before it aired, but failed. South Park operates under strict legal protections, and satire is firmly shielded under free speech laws. Once the episode aired, there was no undo button. Tom Bauer reportedly watched the cultural fallout closely as it unfolded. He paid attention to how Hollywood reacted behind the scenes. One studio executive was quoted by Variety saying, "No one wants that kind of circus."
Be afraid. Be very afraid. And I don't mean this truly creepy new picture that Meghan Markle has just released, looking stalker-like. Apparently that is to promote as ever. But what I'm actually talking about is the fact that Ms. Markle herself should be afraid, because I can reveal Tom Bauer.
That comment reportedly stuck with Bauer and shaped how he viewed the industry response. But Bauer doesn't center his work on jokes alone. He has long argued that satire only lands when it reflects ideas people already recognize. From his perspective, South Park didn't invent skepticism. It echoed conversations that had already been circulating quietly for years. This is where his investigation reportedly deepens. Sources say this is where Revenge 2 becomes far more detailed and structured. For a long time, online commentators have debated what they believe are inconsistencies in publicly available pregnancy-related photos and videos. These discussions spread widely online, often without full context or verification. Bauer is said to be aware of the most common claims, including images where critics say appearances seem different across short time frames. Videos sparked debate about posture and movement. Public appearances were questioned by viewers who lacked behind-the-scenes information. Importantly, Bauer does not frame these discussions as accusations. His approach focuses on documentation and comparison. He places records side by side, outlines timelines, and leaves readers to interpret the information for themselves. That method has consistently shielded his work from legal trouble. In earlier interviews, Bauer explained that he intentionally excluded certain deeply personal material from his first book due to strict British privacy laws. What has reportedly changed now is jurisdiction. He is working with American publishers under U.S. legal standards, which allow different levels of examination. He has also spent years gathering documentation. That shift matters. The questions reportedly being reviewed include why no interior hospital photos were released publicly, why announcement timelines appeared unusual to some observers, and why certain images generated debate among critics. Again, Bauer does not claim wrongdoing. He highlights contradictions, documents timelines, and relies on verifiable records. That distinction is key. Documents speak on their own without speculation. Sources say even publishers familiar with his past work were surprised by the depth of the material. He reportedly navigated sensitivity concerns carefully while sticking to public records. Tax filings, official certificates, and documented timelines exist independently of online rumors. Another area under review reportedly involves Meghan's age. Official records list her birth year as 1981, placing her in her early 40s. However, researchers have pointed to older interviews, industry databases, and casting listings that referenced earlier years. Some records reportedly listed 1978 or 1979. Observers argue this matters because age can affect casting decisions and career marketing in Hollywood. Even small differences can influence how opportunities are presented. Bauer is said to have reviewed documents rarely seen by the public: early agency files, school enrollment records, and original casting sheets before later revisions. When education timelines, graduation dates, and career milestones are compared, overlaps and gaps begin to stand out. Once again, Bauer stops short of drawing conclusions. He documents inconsistencies, organizes timelines, and allows patterns to emerge naturally. This evidence-first method has defined his career for decades. And this leads straight into one of the longest-running questions connected to this story. Tom Bauer has reportedly been examining the role of Soho House for years. He understands exactly what that network represents. Membership alone costs thousands, and true access to its inner circles costs far more. Prince Harry once referred to it as her headquarters, and that reference in Spare raised eyebrows. For years, people have quietly asked the same question: how did an actress with modest television earnings gain consistent access to some of the world's most exclusive private clubs? Bauer's attention reportedly turned to Marcus Anderson, Soho House's global membership director, while reviewing timelines. As he lined up dates, introductions, and access points, a pattern emerged that stood out sharply. Marcus Anderson's movements over the years didn't go unnoticed. According to Tom Bauer's research, his relocations repeatedly lined up with Meghan's own timeline: Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, London, and eventually back to California. Bauer documented these overlaps carefully, noting how often their paths crossed and how consistently their locations matched. Bauer also highlighted Anderson's role at Meghan and Harry's wedding. He wasn't placed like a distant acquaintance or background guest. He was seated as an honored attendee, treated like a VIP. For those familiar with Soho House's internal structure, that level of access raised serious questions. Then there are the yacht rumors that have circulated online for years. Photos surfaced claiming to show Meghan on luxury yachts with wealthy older men before she met Harry. Bauer has openly acknowledged that some of those images were misidentified and that online researchers got parts of the story wrong. Still, he points out that the larger question hasn't gone away. How did she gain repeated access to elite spaces that typically require deep pockets or powerful connections? That access itself is what keeps coming up in his research. Her reported salary on Suits was around $50,000 per episode. That's strong money by everyday standards. But Bauer notes it doesn't clearly explain private jet travel, high-end designer wardrobes, or luxury yacht events in places like Saint-Tropez. His question remains direct and focused. Who was supporting the lifestyle she appeared to be living before entering royal life? That gap is what Bauer keeps circling, without making claims or accusations. Media outlets had already published photos of Meghan attending exclusive events long before she met Harry. Those images stirred public curiosity. What stood out to Bauer wasn't just the pictures, but the response, or the lack of one. She pursued legal action over a private letter involving her father. She publicly raised concerns about media intrusion after the Oprah interview. She threatened lawsuits over multiple stories. But when it came to these lifestyle photos and access questions, Bauer notes there was no legal pushback directed at him. That silence isn't treated as proof of anything. Bauer treats it as a data point. He is reportedly speaking with people who knew her during those years. People who attended the same parties. People who witnessed the environment firsthand. As Bauer often reminds readers, non-disclosure agreements don't last forever. Time has a way of loosening locks. At the same time, he has been tracking her most visible business venture as it unfolded in real time. In April 2024, Meghan launched American Riviera Orchard. She told Harper's Bazaar that products sold out almost immediately. Headlines followed fast. Meghan's jam sells out in hours. The message was clear: huge demand, instant success. But Bauer dug deeper. A Reddit user reportedly uncovered a technical issue by adding large quantities of products to the online cart. The system revealed internal inventory numbers that weren't meant to be public. Based on figures Bauer reviewed, roughly $23 million worth of products were reportedly sitting unsold in warehouses. Around 137,000 units of fruit spreads alone were said to be idle, valued near $6 million. Daily sales reportedly made up only a tiny fraction of total stock. At one point, just 26 jars were sold over a full 24-hour period. Using those figures, Bauer calculated it could take close to 9 years to move the inventory at that pace. These products are perishable. They expire. Unsold stock becomes waste. Bauer's reporting suggests the launch leaned heavily on intentional understocking at the beginning. Only a few hundred units were released initially, creating the appearance of scarcity. Once headlines declared the product sold out, a much larger production order was reportedly placed, exceeding 150,000 units. The press came first. The inventory followed. The demand didn't. Bauer is also reviewing other product-related claims: candles without scent certifications, high-priced subscription boxes that never fully materialized, jams produced at an Illinois facility despite branding that implied a home-style approach. He documents each step carefully, line by line. Now there's talk of a cookbook. Early previews have already sparked comparisons to established lifestyle brands. Observers note similarities in layout, tone, and presentation. Bauer is reportedly aware that major industry figures are watching closely. If familiar elements appear in print, his role won't be to accuse. It will be to document exactly what happens next. According to sources, his most sensitive focus hasn't even been revealed yet. It reportedly involves family narratives and long-term image management. If included, that section is said to be handled with extreme caution. Bauer is now turning his attention to the Archewell Foundation. Sources say he has obtained the organization's 2024 tax filings, including Form 990 records, donor details, and detailed expense reports. And that appears to be where this story is heading next. These documents now sit at the center of what Tom Bauer is actively examining, and the numbers jump off the page immediately. According to the filings, total expenses reached roughly $5.1 million, while total donations landed at only about $2.1 million. That's a gap of nearly $3 million in a single year, and it's not subtle. What makes it even harder to ignore is the sudden shift year over year. Expenses reportedly surged by more than 50%, climbing from $3.3 million to $5.1 million. At the same time, donations dropped by roughly 60%. That kind of imbalance raises serious questions all on its own. Bauer's main question stays blunt and straightforward. Where did the money go? The filings show nearly $913,000 allocated to salaries for just 2 staff members. That averages close to $500,000 per person, which immediately stands out. Another $2.9 million was listed under a broad category labeled Other Expenses. Bauer is well aware of how that label is typically used in nonprofit accounting. It often includes security, private travel, accommodations, consultants, and operational services that don't get broken down line by line. Meanwhile, reported charitable grants totaled around $1.25 million. Bauer isn't focused on labels or spin. He looks at proportions. Out of roughly $5 million spent, only about $1 million went to outside charitable causes. The majority supported internal operations. Around that same period, California records reportedly showed the foundation listed as delinquent. Reports also claim federal regulators requested additional documentation. Shortly after scrutiny intensified, the organization rebranded as Archewell Philanthropies and shifted to a fiscal sponsorship model. Bauer reportedly does not view that timing as accidental. He considers it relevant when assessing awareness and intent. In nonprofit analysis, established charities are often expected to keep operational expenses near 10% of revenue. In this case, expenses exceeded incoming funds by more than double. Bauer repeatedly stresses that his analysis relies on filings, not opinion. Numbers don't argue back. They sit there, unchanged, regardless of how they're explained publicly. He has also stated in previous interviews that the victims are keen to talk. According to sources, that willingness has only increased over time. Several senior staff members have reportedly exited the organization across different phases. James Holt returned to the United Kingdom. Meredith Maines left her role following internal disagreements. Reports suggest a total of 11 senior staff members have departed at various points, which Bauer tracks closely. His reasoning is simple. Confidentiality agreements don't last forever. Non-disclosure clauses expire. People who feel sidelined or mistreated often speak once enough time has passed. Over years of investigation, Bauer says he has identified a recurring pattern. Relationships end badly. Supporters feel pushed aside. Opportunities collapse. Responsibility is redirected outward instead of inward. Former employees watch the calendar. Former partners rethink their silence. Bauer is reportedly gathering first-hand accounts from individuals involved at different stages of the operation. His first book outlined what he believed was an unsustainable structure. Many observers now argue that several of his projections played out publicly. Favorability ratings in the United Kingdom reportedly dropped sharply from 2019 levels. Industry support in Hollywood cooled. Media projects failed to gain momentum. Business ventures struggled to meet expectations. At the same time, the foundation faced regulatory attention, internal turnover, inventory losses from commercial launches, and growing scrutiny. Each layer reinforced Bauer's reputation as a researcher who prioritizes documents over polished storytelling. Revenge 2 is expected to arrive in early 2026. The first book focused largely on actions. The sequel reportedly zooms out to examine patterns, social circles, career timelines, financial structures, workplace culture, public records that can't be smoothed over with public relations strategies. Bauer has repeatedly stated that tax filings speak for themselves. Regulatory reviews follow formal processes. These issues aren't settled through press releases or legal warnings. Once serialization begins in the Times and the Sun, the material will roll out in stages according to publishing sources. Each installment builds on records already available, stacking evidence piece by piece. Bauer continues to research, cross-check, and document. He doesn't issue verdicts. He presents timelines and evidence. And according to those familiar with the project, this may be the most detailed examination yet.